Life is unpredictable and full of unexpected events. Knowing useful information and tips can help you be prepared for any situation and potentially save your life one day. Here are 100 fascinating and unexpected facts that you may have never heard of, but could one day come in handy. If you're lost in the woods, look for moss on the trees. It typically grows on the north side, which can help you determine your direction. If your car skids on ice, turn the wheel in the direction of the skid to regain control. In an emergency, you can use a car's seatbelt as a tourniquet to stem the flow of blood from a wound. If you're lost in the wilderness, building a fire can help attract attention and keep you warm. If you're swimming and feel a cramp, floating on your back can help relieve the pressure and stretch the cramped muscle. If you're stuck in quicksand, try to remain calm and slowly wiggle your legs to create space to move them, then swim backstroke to get to solid ground. If someone is choking, perform the Heimlich maneuver by standing behind them and using the heel of your hand to apply upward pressure just above their belly button. If you're hiking in the wilderness, wearing brightly colored clothing can help make you more visible to rescuers. If you're bitten by a snake, try to remember its color and shape to help identify the species and determine the severity of the bite. If you have a flat tire, loosen the lug nuts before jacking up the car. It's easier to turn them when the weight of the car is not pressing down on them. If you're stuck in a tornado, seek shelter in a low-lying area and cover your head to protect yourself from flying debris. If you have a heart attack, chew and swallow an aspirin to help prevent blood clots and improve blood flow to the heart. If you're lost in the wilderness, making a signal fire can help attract attention. Use green leaves or branches, as they create a lot of smoke. If you're stuck in a blizzard, try to stay with your vehicle, as it provides shelter and can be easier to spot by rescuers. If you have a nosebleed, tilt your head forward and pinch your nostrils together for about 10 minutes. If you're stung by a jellyfish, rinse the affected area with vinegar to neutralize the toxins and reduce pain. If you have a stroke, call 911 immediately, as prompt treatment can help prevent permanent damage. If you're stuck in an elevator, press all the buttons to signal for help and try to stay calm and conserve energy. If you have a sunburn, use cool compresses, aloe vera gel, and hydrocortisone cream to soothe the skin and reduce inflammation. If you're in a car accident, try to remain calm and assess your injuries. If you can, move to a safe place and call 911 for medical help and to report the accident. If you're lost in the wilderness, creating a signal by arranging rocks or sticks in a recognizable pattern can help attract attention. If you're stuck in a flash flood, move to higher ground and try to find shelter on a roof or in a tree. If you're in a building during an earthquake, drop, cover, and hold on to protect yourself from falling objects and structural damage. If you have a bee allergy, carry an EpiPen with you at all times and seek medical attention immediately if you are stung. If you're lost in the wilderness, blowing a whistle can help attract attention and save your voice for when you may need to shout for help. If you're stuck in a rip current, try to stay calm and swim parallel to the shore until you are out of the current, then swim back to shore. If you have a splinter, use a needle or tweezers sterilized with rubbing alcohol to carefully remove it. If you're lost in the wilderness, creating a shelter can help protect you from the elements and conserve your energy. If you're in a car that has driven into water, try to open the windows and escape as soon as possible, as electric windows and locks can fail quickly. If you're stuck in a hurricane, seek shelter in a sturdy building and away from windows, and listen to local news for updates and evacuation orders. If you have a headache, applying a cold compress to the forehead or temples can help reduce pain and swelling. If you're lost in the wilderness, try to stay in one place to make it easier for rescuers to find you. If you're stuck in a snowstorm, try to stay with your vehicle and keep the engine running for heat, but crack a window to avoid carbon monoxide poisoning. If you have a blister, leave it intact to protect the underlying skin and help it heal, but cover it with a blister pad or bandage to prevent further irritation. If you're lost in the wilderness, trying to follow a water source downstream can lead you to civilization. If you're lost in the wilderness, using a fire starter such as dryer lint and a battery can help you start a fire without matches. If you have a sunburn, avoid further sun exposure and wear loose, cool clothing to help soothe the skin and prevent further damage. If you're lost in the wilderness, creating a help sign using rocks or sticks can attract the attention of rescue teams or passing aircraft. If you're stuck in a tornado, try to take cover in a basement or low-lying area and protect yourself from flying debris. If you have a burn, run cool water over the area for at least 20 minutes and cover with a sterile bandage to prevent infection. If you're lost in the wilderness, finding a high point and using a flare or other light source can help attract attention. If you're stuck in a sandstorm, Cover your mouth and nose with a cloth and try to find shelter as soon as possible to protect yourself from blowing sand and dust. If you have a cut, clean the area with soap and water and apply pressure to stop bleeding. If the cut is deep or won't stop bleeding, seek medical attention. If you're stuck in a hurricane, avoid using candles or open flames for light, as they can pose a fire hazard during power outages. If you're lost in the wilderness, marking your trail with rocks or sticks can help you retrace your steps and find your way back. If you're stuck in a blizzard, try to stay active and move around to generate body heat, but avoid overexertion and dehydration. If you're stuck in a volcanic eruption, try to evacuate the area and seek shelter in a sturdy building or higher ground to avoid ash and lava flows. If you have a food poisoning, drink plenty of water to stay hydrated and avoid solid food until you feel better. If you're lost in the wilderness, staying near a water source can help you find food and make it easier for rescuers to find you. If you're stuck in a flood, try to find high ground and avoid walking or driving through fast-moving water, as even shallow water can be dangerous. If you have a cold or flu, rest, stay hydrated, and use over-the-counter remedies such as decongestants and pain relievers to relieve symptoms. If you're lost in the wilderness, using a fire to signal for help can attract attention, but make sure to keep the fire contained and under control. If you're stuck in a drought, conserve water by taking shorter showers, fixing leaks, and using drought-resistant plants in your landscaping. If you have a broken bone, immobilize the injury and seek medical attention to ensure proper healing and prevent further damage. If you're lost in the wilderness, eating small amounts of food and conserving your energy can help you survive longer until rescued. If you're stuck in a fire, try to cover your mouth and nose with a wet cloth, stay low to the ground, and find a safe exit as soon as possible. If you have a bee sting, remove the stinger if it's still in the skin, and apply a cold compress to help reduce pain and swelling. If you're lost in the wilderness, using a whistle or other loud noise to signal for help can attract attention from rescuers. If you're stuck in a landslide, try to evacuate the area as soon as possible and find a safe place to take shelter until the landslide has passed. If you have a headache, rest, drink plenty of water, and use over-the-counter pain relievers to relieve symptoms. If you're lost in the wilderness, using a mirror or other reflective object to signal for help can attract attention from rescuers. If you're stuck in a snowstorm, try to find shelter and avoid overexertion, as excessive physical activity can cause hypothermia. If you have a stomachache, rest, drink plenty of water, and avoid solid food until you feel better. If you're lost in the wilderness, using a fire to melt snow and make water can help you stay hydrated. If you're stuck in a power outage, conserve energy by turning off lights and unplugging appliances, and consider using a backup generator for essential equipment. If you have a fever, rest, stay hydrated, and use over-the-counter remedies such as acetaminophen or ibuprofen to reduce symptoms. If you're lost in the wilderness, using natural resources such as plants and insects for food and medicine can help you survive until rescued. If you're stuck in a hurricane, try to evacuate the area if possible, and find a safe place to take shelter, such as a sturdy building or high ground. If you have a skin rash, avoid scratching the affected area and use over-the-counter creams or ointments to relieve symptoms. If you're lost in the wilderness, using a signal fire or other means of attracting attention can help you get rescued. If you're stuck in a lightning storm, avoid high places, metal objects, and open fields, and take shelter in a low-lying area or a sturdy building. If you have a stomach virus, drink plenty of fluids to stay hydrated and avoid solid food until you feel better. If you're lost in the wilderness, using a map and compass, or other navigation tools, can help you find your way back to civilization. If you're stuck in a fire, try to evacuate the area as soon as possible, and avoid inhaling smoke, as it can cause respiratory problems. If you have a sprained wrist, rest the injury, use a brace or wrap to immobilize the wrist, and seek medical attention if necessary. If you're lost in the wilderness, using animal tracks and other signs can help you determine your location and find your way back. If you're stuck in a flash flood, try to evacuate the area as soon as possible and find high ground to avoid being swept away by the fast-moving water. If you have a toothache, rinse your mouth with warm salt water and use over-the-counter pain relievers to relieve symptoms. If the pain persists, see a dentist. If you're lost in the wilderness, building a shelter from natural materials can help protect you from the elements and improve your chances of survival. If you're stuck in a blizzard, find shelter and avoid overexertion, as excessive physical activity can cause hypothermia.